Thank you guys so much for coming and welcome. My name is Jenny Schiffman, and I'm thrilled to introduce Ilyse Schapiro and Hallie Rich to talk about their best-selling book, Should I Scoop Out My Bagel? So they're going to answer a lot of your burning questions and things about nutrition that you've been dying to know, which is perfect timing for summer. So Ilyse Schapiro, she's a registered dietitian and certified dietitian nutritionist. She holds a Master of Science in Clinical Nutrition and Dietetics from New York University and resides in Mamaroneck, New York. She's also one of my closest friends, so I'm personally very thrilled that she's here. And Hallie Rich is a trailblazer in the vitamin industry, having created the award-winning Alternativites brand. She received her BA with honors from the University of Michigan and resides in New York City. So with that, Ilyse and Hallie, take it away.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. Jenny, thank you so much, and it's such an honor to be here. We couldn't be more excited, and it's kind of crazy because I've grown up with Jenny, so this is amazing. Okay, so, right, introducing the scoop. So why did we write this book, right? Hallie and I kind of sat down together a couple years ago. We both said we want to write a book, but we couldn't figure out what we wanted to write about. And at first it started out very serious and very technical, and we both looked at each other and we said, that's not us, and that's not what people need right now, right? There's too much stuff out there that's, you have to cut out gluten, you have to cut out dairy, you have to do a juice cleanse. And, you know, and 1 week it's butter's good for you, butter's not good for you, eggs are good for you, eggs are gonna kill you. So we decided to write a book and kind of cut through all the BS and just put it down all in one spot to give you the latest research and the latest knowledge that's out there today. And there's pros and cons to everything, right? And our book is a guide to allow you and empower you to make smart decisions, right? Again, there's so much out there on the Today Show, you can get anything online. So we're giving you this information to empower you to make the best decisions to live your best life.
Yeah, it's not about, dictating to you how to live your life. It's about saying what's important to you and then making those healthy decisions. So if you love carbs, don't cut out carbs, but here's ways to make smarter decisions. If you're all into protein, or you're afraid of gluten, or you haven't had a full egg, you've only had egg whites for the past 10 years, we give you, not permission, but the knowledge and the information to just do what's best for you. And we kind of want to cut out a lot of the misinterpretations out there that food is evil, that food is a bad 4-letter word. Food should be enjoyed, you only live once. We're all about everything in moderation, and just kind of pick your vices on where you should enjoy things and where you shouldn't. Like we always say, I can't go without carbs. Ilyse could give up carbs tomorrow. And it was kind of a really nice mix when we were writing the book, because we both came at it from different ways, but how do we both enjoy life and how do we be healthy? And it's not about being skinny. And one of the things, when we first wrote our book, our first publisher wanted to rename the book and call it like Skinny Something or Other. And we actually left that deal and started our, we work with the publisher we're with at now, Skyhorse, because we weren't comfortable with that. It's not about being skinny. It's not about losing the most amount of weight. It's about being the healthiest version of yourself, and whatever that is like to you.
Right, exactly. Okay, good. So why listen to us? Jenny gave a brief bio. I have my Master's of Science from NYU. I'm a registered dietitian, which means I'm certified in New York State and Connecticut practice, which is different than being a health coach. I have tons of schooling. I have to maintain my continuing ed credits every year. And I have a private practice in Harrison, New York, and Greenwich, Connecticut.
I'm the third generation in my family to be in the vitamin industry. So I've really actually in my genes. And really how we came together, we were introduced through a friend to work together with my vitamin company and Ilyse's practice. But what's kind of interesting is, the reason why you eat, the reason why you take supplements is all about the nutrients, right? So whether it's the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, whatever it is you're getting, you're trying to get the same benefit. So we actually have a lot more in common. It's just a matter of kind of where do you get it from? And I'm of the belief, as of Ilyse, obviously you want to try to get the most that you can from food. But whatever you can't get from food, you want to try to supplement with whatever product it is that works for you. And that's how we work so well, because we both know enough about the nutrients. It's just a matter of kind of where you source them from.
Okay. All right. So we've got rainbow bagels in the back. All right, Hallie.
So about scooping your bagel, does everyone here scoop? Do people not scoop? Are you into scooping? Not
Right.
into
What do we
scooping?
think about scooping?
We're in New York. Everyone has to eat bagels. How do you eat them? Plain, not plain? All right, well, so obviously the name of our book is Should I Scoop My Bagel? And if you're looking to lose weight, the answer is yes, you should scoop your bagel. The most important thing, though, with scooping is not when you scoop out the middle to eat the middle. Make sure you throw it out. Otherwise, there's absolutely no point in scooping. A good other thing to do is to toast it, because it makes it really crunchy. You don't really see that you're missing things. The other most important thing is just not to pour everything in there. You know, it doesn't become a boat for you to put extra stuff.
Right.
Kind of top it off at the top of the scoop. Great things for there would be peanut butter, turkey, even like a pizza bagel, low-fat tuna, grilled chicken. You can, kind of make anything you want of it because at that point it's kind of just bread. And then just if you don't want to scoop, if you're at a business meeting, if you're here enjoying your rainbow bagels, just have half a bagel, a flagel, a little flat, anything like that is a great alternative if you don't want to scoop and you're trying to watch your weight.
Right. Okay, good. Right. And some people have said to us, like, why would you have bagels at talks? But again, we're about everything in moderation. So enjoy, have fun. And the Rainbow Bagel place in Brooklyn is amazing and have been amazing to us. Okay. So some quick bites, right? Some quick things. Again, these questions we came up between peers and colleagues. And for me, sometimes it was somebody at the gym coming up to me or my client saying, what should I do? So, and even actually, I was a huge believer for years. I thought blotting my pizza would save a ton of calories. In fact, it doesn't. So just enjoy your pizza, right? The grease that you soak up only accounts for 20 to 50 calories, and you're really only actually soaking up the moisture. So we say, you know what, if you're going to have pizza, that's fine. Don't think you're saving, hundreds of calories by soaking up the grease. Park a little bit further away, or if you're in New York, walk a couple of extra blocks. Because I think some people, misinterpret, I just soaked up the grease, so I can have 2 to 3 slices because I'm saving tons of calories. And then another thing that comes up all the time, and I'm a huge just only egg white eater more because I just prefer it. I don't like the taste of the yolk, but whole eggs are making a comeback. Years ago, everybody was cutting out the yolk. It causes high cholesterol, it causes heart disease. Actually, they're saying now research says it's not. If you do have a family history or a personal history of high cholesterol, then yes, I would keep your egg yolks limited, maybe once or twice a week. But if you have no family history or personal history of high cholesterol, you don't have to cut out the yolk. You don't have to be like me, that annoying person in the diner saying, "Can I have an egg white only omelet?" Right? It's okay, eat the yolk. And the yolk actually has all the vitamins. It has vitamins A, D, E, and K. The egg white is great. It has protein, it has magnesium. And one thing that we found out as we were doing this, especially since I'm the egg white person, if you buy the fancy omega-3 eggs, which are great, you actually only get the benefits of the omega-3s if you eat the yolk. So otherwise, if you're an egg white only person, just buy the regular cheap eggs because otherwise you're just
really expensive egg
right.
whites.
You're wasting your money. All right, frozen yogurt is better than ice cream. Who's a froyo person out there? Right? The big 16 handles or some of those self-serve places. And again, for years, I was froyo girl. It has less calories. I can eat as much as I want. Now, especially with those self-serve places and you can just put in 16 ounces, sometimes you're just better off having just a small scoop of ice cream. The small scoop of ice cream is going to be way more satisfying than 16 ounces of air and also at the froyo places. I mean, I'm guilty too. You put on tons of toppings. They taste delicious, but before you know it, your froyo, which you think is super healthy, can be 600, 700, 800 calories. So again, if you like froyo, enjoy it. Just try and keep the portion sizes down because kind of ounce for ounce, it's actually similar, and the regular ice cream would be more satisfying.
Right. It's got your full fat dairy, so you're going to be more satisfied. You're going to be fuller. And in the book we make an analogy to kind of like that fake purse that you buy. First you love it, then you see all of its imperfections. Then you're like, why did I spend all the money on this? It's kind of the same thing with frozen yogurt. You see it, it seems refreshing, it seems satisfying, but then by the time you're done, you're like, oh, I have the worst stomach ache, I have gas, I'm never going to eat it again until the next day. So just kind of be careful with it. It's deceivingly.
Right.
Nutritious, and it's just a lot of chemicals.
Right. And I've also had clients say to me, oh, Ilyse, I went out for 16 handles and then I came home and I ate, I was still hungry and I ate a bag of M&Ms or I ate a couple of Oreos because it didn't fill me up enough. Okay, so multigrain instead of white bread, right? So I think, multigrain bread is great, but you have to know what you're getting. I think a lot of people don't read the labels and assume just because something's multigrain, it's actually just as good, it's whole grain. But sometimes multigrain is just a bunch of grains and it's not 100% whole grain. So you have to make sure you read labels. Again, if this is something that you are concerned about, you need to make sure you read labels because in some cases multigrain
multigrain bread that you buy in the supermarket package could be equivalent to white bread.
Yeah, they just use some food colorings like caramel and stuff.
Right. And
So
Hallie
it looks I mean, I was that person. I bought multigrain all the time. Now, after researching for this book, I only buy 100% whole wheat bread, just because that's something that, one, I think it's, more satisfying, it has more fiber in it, but I also don't need all the caramel. Otherwise, white bread with caramel and some nuts on the top. It's not what you think you're necessarily getting.
Right.
So.
Right. So you need to make sure on the label it says 100% whole wheat, 100% whole grain, or that the first ingredient is whole wheat or whole wheat flour. All right.
So sushi, we've all had sushi, whether it's after work at night, you order it to your desk, you probably have it here. You think it's small bites, it's healthy, it's good, it's a nice balance of fish and carbs, but it's kind of none of those things. Actually, the rice that they usually use for sushi, pardon me, is full of salt and sugar. So you're actually getting a lot more calories just in the rice, forget about anything else that you're eating. And why, I don't know how many of you, but you have sushi, you're so full, and then like a half hour later, you're starving, and you have no idea why. And a lot of times that's because, forget about the sake bombs for a second, but a lot of times it's because you're totally dehydrated, and that's because of the salt and the sugar in the rice. So that's your first, problem. And also dehydration, the symptoms of dehydration mimics hunger. So if you're ever really hungry and that happens, have a big glass of water, wait 15 minutes, you're probably not going to be hungry again because your body was probably just thirsty instead of being hungry. But back to sushi anyway. Start with something on this, a small something, an edamame, a salad with dressing on the side. Try hand rolls if you can, because again, the rice seems to be, a big culprit of why you're not hungry and why it's not so filling and why it has so many calories. Just 1 or 2 rolls could have over 1,000 calories to them. So, it's a big part of your day, and it's not as healthy as you, originally thought it was. You can also try something like chicken teriyaki or any of those dishes, which are a nice alternative, and try to share. I mean, most of the time when you go out for sushi, there's more than one of you. Get rolls that you like, have a little bit of them, and then get something on the side that's a little bit healthier.
This is one of my favorite questions, and it comes up in my office all the time. Ilyse, should I cut out gluten? Well, do you have a gluten sensitivity? Do you have celiac? No. My friend just told me I should cut out gluten or whatever. It's never from a doctor or a registered dietitian. My friend said this, my aunt said this, my sister said this, my cousin said that. So that's something that comes up in my office constantly, and I'm not discounting that some people do have a real sensitivity to gluten, and I totally respect and honor that. But I think sometimes people just cut out gluten because they think it's the thing to do. Everybody else is doing it. It's a fad.
New Atkins diet.
Right, exactly. And sometimes it actually messes you up, to be honest. So gluten is a specific protein found in wheat, rye, and barley. To eliminate, right, if you want to cut out carbs or go low carb, which is actually the type of lifestyle I live, that's fine, do that. But if you're going to cut out gluten, it actually goes way beyond that, right? Gluten is found in instant coffee, grain alcohol, soy sauce, mustards, dressings. And I think a lot of people, they say to me, oh, well, I'm eating so healthy, right? I had gluten-free pretzels as a snack. Well, a gluten-free pretzel is still a pretzel, and a gluten-free cookie is still a cookie. And they still have calories, and they still have fat. And believe it or not, actually, when they make these gluten-free products, because there's no gluten in it, they have to fill it with fillers and tapioca flour. So again, gluten-free pretzels, gluten-free bread. If you need it, fine, but just doing it to do it, sometimes people actually end up gaining weight because they're doing it wrong. And if you're going to go strict gluten-free, which again is fine if it's indicated, I wouldn't recommend using many of those products because there's fillers, it's more fat, there's no fiber, so you're not going to feel that full.
And some things claim to be gluten-free that were always gluten-free to begin with.
Right.
So, it's not necessarily a sign that, it's better than an alternative. It just might have always been gluten-free.
Right, exactly. Anyone here cut out gluten because they hear it's the thing to do or they feel like it's trendy? Okay, good. No, that makes me so happy to hear. I eat gluten, I eat dairy. I tell people that all the time. And the next thing is dairy. And again, if you have a legit medical condition or some people say, you know what, Ilyse, dairy just really bloats me. I just don't feel good with dairy. Then don't eat it. But to cut out dairy just because you think it's going to help you lose weight doesn't work. I eat dairy, I eat yogurt, I eat cheese, I eat all of that stuff on a daily basis. So eliminating dairy alone won't help you move the scale, right? And dairy has tons of benefits. It contains vitamins and minerals like calcium, vitamin D, protein. It obviously supports strong bones. And it has the protein, which helps to prevent you overeating. I mean, my biggest thing, I love Greek yogurt. It has 18 to 20 grams of protein in it. It's a great afternoon snack. It's a great breakfast. So I'm like all about gluten and dairy, and like I said, without a medical indication, there's really no reason to cut it out. Cleanses. So everybody's always looking for that thing that's going to help them drop 5 pounds or clean up their diet. But, to be honest, they don't work. You get hungry, you get cranky. Yes, you'll lose a couple of pounds, but then the second you start eating normally, which 99.99% of people have to start doing, you'll gain the weight back. So
And maybe more so.
And maybe more so sometimes. Your body already is doing a cleanse. I think a lot of people misunderstand. We have our liver, our kidneys, our digestive system, which are all natural filters, right? Some people are like, well, I just want to clean out all the toxins in my body. You can do that in a healthy way. Don't drink alcohol. Don't eat processed foods. Cut out artificial sweeteners. That's a huge one, including, Truvia and stevia, which we'll get to later. Cut out the refined carbs, cut out the white stuff. Definitely exercise and focus on, fruits, vegetables, and clean protein. So I think the cleanses can be expensive and kind of not necessary. All right.
All right, protein bars. So a lot of us are really busy. We grab protein bars, whether it's before the gym, after the gym, we're traveling, just we don't have enough time, running to meetings, we eat protein bars. But, they're not a meal replacement. So, once in a while, if it's something you want to have, you just, need the nourishment, you're running around, it's fine, but don't keep looking at them as meal replacements. A lot of times, there's a lot more fat and sugar than you would. You're missing a lot of the nutrients that you would be getting just from the actual food that has the actual protein in it. They're made with some soy protein isolates, which aren't always, exactly the best thing to be having as well. And they're just, there are many bars out there that are marketed as protein bars that you would be better off having a Snickers. Snickers actually has real peanuts in it. It has real chocolate. There's not a lot of chemicals. And you'd be surprised by looking at the nutrition facts if you took a Snickers and you took a protein bar. If we showed you the back of them, you'd be surprised to know that you'd probably pick the Snickers bar as the one as being the protein bar and not the actual protein bar, depending upon the brand out there. Brands that we like, Think Thin, Quest, Pure Protein, they tend to have a lot of protein, little sugar, little fat, little calories. So, not that we're plugging anybody, but we like those because people always ask us which brands we do like. But, you really want to kind of watch the ratio there and make sure that you're actually getting a lot of protein and less of everything else.
Okay, good. All right, organic. Who in this room tries to buy organic, even if it's for some things, right? All good. Perfect. So kind of we're here to tell you, right, there are certain things you should or try to buy organic, and then there's some things you don't have to stress out about. One of them being bananas, which actually happens to not be on here, but a lot of people say, oh my God, I bought organic bananas. I'm like, you just wasted your money, right? Anything with a thick skin, you don't need to buy organic. But there are plenty of things that the Environmental Working Group, which is the EWG, which this changes every year, recommends that you buy organic, right? So huge ones, the Dirty Dozen: apple, celery, cherries, cucumbers, which I actually just recently switched to organic cucumbers. It tastes different. Grapes, nectarines, peaches, snap peas, spinach, strawberry, sweet bell peppers, and tomatoes. Those are the ones that they say have the highest pesticides residue, and you should aim to buy organic, right? Now, the cleanest fruits and veggies that you don't have to waste your money on: asparagus, avocado, cabbage, cantaloupe, cauliflower, eggplant, grapefruit, honeydew, mangoes, kiwi, onions, papaya, pineapple, sweet corn, and sweet peas. And if you don't have access to organic, look for local produce. It's easy to buy actually frozen organic fruits and vegetables in the supermarket, and those are just as good for you. Some things that are not necessary to buy organic: breads, cookies. Again, an organic cookie is still a cookie. And, you want to look for the USDA organic label for 100% organic products.
So alcohol, we know that you guys are going to drink, and here to show you how to do that in the healthiest way possible. Alcohol has no nutritional value whatsoever, so don't think just because you're having a pina colada, for example, and it's made with coconuts that you're going to get something from it. It doesn't really work that way. Like an apple pie doesn't really give you the benefits of the apples. So kind of pick your alcohol intelligently, if you would, if you're trying to watch your weight and that's important to you. A 6-ounce glass of wine only has 150 calories. The same size pina colada has 3 times or 450 calories. So again, if you're sitting on the beach and your feet are up and you're on, a lounge chair at the pool, we're not going to tell you not to have your pina colada, but maybe don't have a bunch and don't have them every day, and just kind of be careful, especially of the things with the sugar around the rim or the little pretty umbrellas in them. They're so pretty because they're masking what's really inside of them. If you're going to have beer, try to stick with your ultra low carb beer. Mixed drinks, try to stick with one mixer. Best mixers would be seltzer. Try to kind of avoid the fruit juice, which we'll get into in a second. About fruit juices, and if you don't like your alcohol with it, just have a splash. It will really cut down on calories and sugar, and you'll probably enjoy the drink a little bit more, and you need less because you're having more of the alcohol. And ounce for ounce, the stronger the alcohol, the more calories there are in there. So you probably hopefully don't need as much because the alcohol is stronger, but just be mindful of that. So that's the deal with alcohol.
All right. Oh, right. And did you talk about the proof?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Breakfast.
Cereal. So I think we've all kind of been ingrained that, Saturday morning or what used to be Saturday morning cartoon cereals are the things that should definitely be avoided, right? They're very colorful, they're full of sugar, artificial colors, sweeteners, flavors and dyes. But what's so interesting is that the things that are marketed towards you are actually, I don't want to use the word way worse, but have a lot more sugar and a lot more calories and a lot more dyes than you would think. I mean, out of all these cereals up there, would someone tell me which ones they would avoid or which ones they would lean to or which ones they actually eat? Anyone know which has the most sugar? All right. Well, Raisin Bran has the most sugar. It has 18 grams of sugar.
I know.
That's
I love the confusion in the room.
Followed by Smart Start and Go Lean, which have 14 grams and 13 grams respectively. Your Cinnamon Toast Crunch, your Mini Wheats, and your Fruit Loops, out of everything on the screen, has your least amount of sugar. So, it's really interesting that, you'll be walking down the supermarket and see someone who has Fruit Loops in their, cart, and you have the Smart Start. You're like, ooh, look at me, I'm so awesome, but not really. You have to really be careful and look at the back of things because just because they're not marketed towards kids, and there's a cereal that I used to eat all the time, and when we were doing this, I looked at the back and I was shocked to see that it had, food dyes in it, that it had a lot of, artificial chemicals, and, there it was. I thought it was good because, I looked at the nutritional content, but I didn't look at the other ingredients. Right. So it's really important to kind of look at what you're taking because just because they're not geared towards kids, a lot of these companies have been responsible and they kind of reacted to the outrage of parents for what they were giving their children. But because there was an outrage of what they were giving themselves, they kind of snuck some things in there. And they didn't really, react that way to it. So just, be mindful of what's there. Again, we're not saying don't eat cereal, and if you love one of those brands, keep eating it. Just be mindful of how much sugar or how many calories or the other things that you're eating throughout the rest of the day because it might not be the healthy start that you think you're getting.
Right. Raisin Bran is full of sugar. Full of sugar. Okay. Anyway, artificial sweeteners, another one of my favorite topics. Who wants to admit that they use something? Pink, yellow, blue, Truvia, stevia. Nobody in here uses artificial sweeteners. A handful. Drinks diet soda, right? All righty. So I always tell people I used to be a Diet Coke addict. I used to be a Diet Coke addict, and then when I decided to have children, I cut it out because I just didn't want it in my body, and not on purpose, but I lost 5 pounds just from cutting out diet artificial sweeteners. So I know a lot of people are kind of getting away from these colorful packets. They're still out there. My husband uses Splenda, so it just is what it is. But we're just here to educate you, right? So Sweet and Low is 300 to 500 times sweeter than regular sugar. Equal is 200 times sweeter, and Splenda is 600 times sweeter than regular sugar. Our point is actually intake of artificial sweeteners can actually affect your body's ability to regulate itself and regulate its metabolism and regulate its weight. Like I said, I cut it out when I was trying to get pregnant and I lost 5 pounds. Then you actually, when you have a lot of these, you crave more sweet. And then even sometimes fruits and vegetables like strawberries, blueberries don't even taste sweet to you anymore. Or I've like clients who put Splenda in their Greek yogurt to make it taste better. So, and there are numerous studies that have been published recently that it actually is linked to an increase in BMI. And a lot of people say to me, well, but I have Truvia, I have stevia. I tell people if it's powdered and in a packet, it's still processed. So if you need something, either just do 1 teaspoon of regular sugar in the raw, or the best kind of non-calorie sweetener is stevia leaf extract, which is a dropper. So you can buy that at like a Whole Foods or Mrs. Green's or something like that. Okay. And then kind of going along with this, where is sugar hidden? Now, I eat foods that have sugar in them. I think it's unrealistic to completely eliminate it, but I know a lot of people are just trying to be more and more conscious about it, right? So we're just kind of here to empower you. You want to look for, and no longer do they just list sugar on the label, right? They've gotten really smart to hide it in places where we wouldn't know. So you want to always look at the sugar content in terms of grams, and then you want to read the label and look out for added sugars, right? Anything that ends in ose, dextrose, fructose, lactose, anything that has like a syrup or a juice, corn syrup, cane juice, right? And even if it says organic cane sugar is still sugar, agave is still sugar, maple syrup, right? And then less obvious names, dextrin, honey, hydrogenated starch, molasses, sorghum. And again, we're just saying if you are somebody who's conscious about your sugar intake for the day, this is just other ways to look out for it because it's no longer just called sugar on the label. All right. So there are plenty of foods out there that get kind of this health halo effect, which is a real term, right? What are the foods that we think are healthy but aren't? So the first one is dried fruit, and I think anybody in here think dried fruit is healthy or they like it, or right? So actually a bunch of you, a ton of you. The thing with dried fruit, raisins, or any other kind of dried fruit is that actually it's totally depleted in nutrients, and it's less filling. If you think about it, they've taken the water out of it, so it's not going to be filling, and it's actually loaded with calories and sugar. Even if it says no sugar added, because there's no water in it, it's very concentrated. Same with veggie pasta and veggie chips, right? I say like a veggie chip is still a chip, and veggie pasta, it basically just has powdered, spinach powder in it. You're much better off having pasta, having whole wheat pasta, and pairing it with real vegetables, and you'll get a much better effect. And the veggie chips, again, do they serve a purpose? Do I have them in my house sometimes because I have 2 young kids? Absolutely, but you just have to know it's still kind of a chip. Yes, it has less fat, but obviously you're better off eating real vegetables.
Yeah, go with the chip you want. Don't
Right,
necessarily
exactly.
The veggie chip. It's not necessarily healthier. Fruit juice is kind of deceiving because it has tons of sugar. Just kind of giving you another analogy. Mott's apple juice has 28 grams of sugar for an 8-ounce cup. Pepsi has the exact same amount of sugar. So, you might think that you're, drinking something that's healthier. Again, I'm not advocating to drink soda necessarily, but, just don't think you're making the smarter choice necessarily by having fruit juice, whether it's by itself, in your alcohol, or whatever it is. Fruit juice can be very deceivingly high in sugar. Same with trail mix. Even though it's delicious, it's nuts, it's got a lot of, fat in there, and a lot of times with your trail mix, you're having, little crackers, there's chocolate, there's M&Ms, which again, I love.
And the dried fruit.
Right, dried fruit. So you just have to be careful. And with trail mix, the most important thing is serving size. Don't go in there and get a huge heaping of it. Just have a little bit of it, taste it, enjoy it, and just use it for what it is. And when it comes to buzzwords, this is something that's really interesting. Whether it's the word natural, which has zero meaning when it comes to, the FDA and what they assign to have natural, it has no definition. So what you think of natural and what you think of natural, you're both right and you're both wrong because it doesn't mean anything. So you might be picking something up and thinking, oh, I'm getting something better, whether it's because more money, whether you think it's just a healthier thing, but don't fall into that trap. Same with the things like skinny, smart, from the earth. Any of those kinds of terms are just marketing terms. I mean, you guys deal with them all the time. They're just things that they think will excite you and get you to buy them, and they're normally right. Because people think, well, if they're saying that on a box or a label or a can, it must mean something, and it doesn't. Right. So again, if you like it and you want to buy it, do it, but don't think you're getting some added benefit. You might be, but you also might not be. It's 50-50 depending upon what's on the back of the label. Something else like honey wheat pretzels versus regular pretzels. Actually, the regular pretzels have less sugar, less fat than the honey wheat pretzels. So, it's just very interesting that if you just, take 2 seconds, turn 2 things over, you'll be able to see. And don't be afraid of that nutrition label. It's all really laid out there for you very carefully. And it's very easy to compare things. So that's, kind of the deal with buzzwords. Just don't.
Right. As we were writing the book, I mean, the 2 of us literally went to the supermarket and looked at baked Lay's versus regular Lay's and reduced fat versus this. And
yeah, and sometimes it makes a difference. There are cookies, that go from 10 grams of fat to 5 grams of fat because reduced fat has to be cut in half. But if it's 2 grams to 1 gram, what are you getting there? Are you getting more fillers? You're getting more binders? You're getting more chemicals? I mean, whether it's fruit or it's cookies, when you take something out, you have to put something back in. Otherwise, it's not going to have the same substance. It's not going to taste the same in your mouth. The mouthfeel is going to be different. So what are they putting it back in for? And maybe that doesn't matter to you. Maybe it does. And that's kind of what we say. We're not here to tell you which one to have. Just make the right decision on what your priorities are so that you can make the right decisions, for your lifestyle and your health lifestyle and what matters to you.
Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to give the 5-minute warning. If anybody has questions, you could start lining up at the microphone as we kind of wrap up.
Jet lag is just something when we talk to a lot of corporate people, they seem to be very interested in because you're always traveling, whether it's for you guys to the West Coast or different meetings across the oceans. But how do you kind of deal with it? And instead of feeling sluggish and out of sort and fatigued, so one thing would be melatonin. You want to start a few days before. There's plenty of foods where you could see like oatmeal, bananas, oranges that you can get them from. They also come in supplement form. Pycnogenol is something you might not be as familiar with. It actually comes from the bark of pine trees. There was a study that says if you have 50 grams 2 days before, continuing through 5 days after, it'll help not only with some symptoms of jet lag, but also with your immunity, which is always important because when you're on a plane or you're in the airport and everyone's sneezing and coughing around you, and you're taking a trip with 100 people on the plane and all their germs, something you kind of don't want to take home with you. Same with vitamins B, C, and E. Those are really important for helping to support your immunity. And again, you can get those in chocolates, blueberries, grapes, oranges. If you're already taking a multivitamin, it's something you're getting in there already, so you may not need any extra. But it's really important for both your jet lag and for your immunity. You don't want to be feeling, under the weather or out of sorts when you're, giving an important talk or listening to us, or just on vacation with friends and family. You want to enjoy yourself. You paid a lot for that trip, and you don't want to worry about jet lag. And also just drink tons of water. Try to avoid alcohol. Sleep when you should be sleeping. Eat when you should be eating, and that'll help you with jet lag.
All right, Vitawoman.
All right. So the question I get asked the most is, do I really need to be taking any vitamins? I eat really well. And it seems like you guys do eat pretty well considering how you've answered some of the questions so far.
Plus the cafeteria is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. But what's really interesting is that food today isn't what food used to be. And there's a really interesting statistic from the USDA that you would have to have 7 cups of spinach today to get the same nutritional content you would have had to get from 1 cup of spinach in the 1960s. And again, that's not us saying don't have spinach. It's just saying, soil is over-farmed, it's depleted, there's chemicals, there's lots of different things in the soil that just, make even a healthy food not as healthy as it used to be. And so you would really need to overcompensate for what, your grandparents used to have and how they're, how they used to eat. Also, a lot of times, food used to be from farm to table. Now, you're getting fruits and vegetables from Central America. They pick them before they're ripe. They sit on your shelves, and it's just a different kind of food. So even if you're eating really well, you're not necessarily getting all the nutritional benefits that you would be, even if you ate a perfect diet. Then we all know that we all don't eat perfect diets. We're human. We're both human. You have different types of foods during the day. Some days are better than other days. And a vitamin really is an insurance policy. And a vitamin is part of a category of products called supplements. And really what you want to do is you want to supplement your diet with your proper products. So you don't want to, it's not a license to eat whatever you want. And anyone who tells you that, if they're in my industry, they're embarrassing my industry. That's not who we are. We're about, adding to what you're doing so that you're getting the most out of everything, because your body really needs the right vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants to function properly. And you want to make sure you're getting that, hopefully mostly from food, but whatever you can't get from food, you have car insurance, you have life insurance, you have health insurance. Think of vitamins as kind of your body's insurance. I would always say start with a multivitamin. It's your great basic foundation program. It has enough of your vitamins and minerals in there. Something to be mindful of, though, make sure your multi has both vitamins and minerals in there. A lot of times they'll call themselves a multi, but you won't see calcium, you won't see magnesium in there. So just make sure that you're getting both. If you want to add other things on there, you can look at probiotics, you can look at omegas, things with CoQ10, but those are just the kind of different things that you can add on to it. But I would always start with a multi. And even though it's summer, one thing I know Ilyse stresses a lot is vitamin D. Make sure it has a good amount of vitamin D in there. Vitamin D is actually a hormone, and whether it's the sun that you need to produce it, it's very hard to get from food. So we say it's trendy for a reason. Vitamin D is actually a very important nutrient.
Right, and 77% of Americans are vitamin D deficient. So it's really important to get your levels checked from your doctor, but it can't hurt to have at least 1,000 IUs of vitamin D in your
Right. I mean, and a lot of things, for women, especially calcium, but you would be surprised if you all Google it, to see what you're deficient in. There are so many, the majority of people, even though they think they eat well, are actually deficient in many nutrients. So, it's kind of an interesting statistic.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So wrapping up, right? So steps for optimal success. Don't skip meals. This is huge. Plan ahead if you have a busy day, but it's always important. I just got interviewed. Should I eat breakfast every day? I'm a huge believer in starting your day with a healthy breakfast and then eating every 3 to 4 hours. I get it. I'm a working mom. I'm busy. I grab something as I'm running out the door. I kind of pack my lunch for the day because I don't want to be stuck without food. Luckily, you guys, again, have a great cafeteria where it's at your fingertips. But if you're out and about and traveling, it's really important to plan ahead. You want to fuel your body with high quality food as best you can. Eat every 3 to 4 to 5 hours. Stay hydrated. Huge. As you can see, I've been drinking this water as we go. Plan ahead if you have a busy day. Aim for 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. I think people also underestimate the power of sleep. A big thing, maybe you guys know, maybe you don't, they even say turn off your devices at least a half hour before you go to bed because that light is very stimulating. I even throw a t-shirt on my cable box because even the light from the cable box is too stimulating for me. So, but 7 to 8 hours per night, obviously you function better the next day, but it also affects your weight, how much sleep. Because if we don't sleep enough, it increases cortisol levels in the body and kind of just holds on to that weight you're trying to lose. Be active. If you're not a gym person, that's okay. Aim for 10,000 steps per day. Whether you have a Fitbit or certain phones actually track your steps, which is awesome. Check in with your step counter daily and aim for 10,000 steps. Don't ignore the power of proper supplementation. We say everything in moderation, which is what we totally preach in our book and what I preach in my practice, and honor and respect your body. So thank you. And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And we'll start taking questions. And maybe as people ask questions, more questions will kind of come up.
Hi. I have a comment and a question. The comment, I was not going to make it in the beginning, but you mentioned buzzwords, and I cannot hold myself.
Go.
You talk about chemicals. Like, chemicals are everything. Like the salt that you add, even if it's just pure chemical. Sure. Like, I believe that you should use the word industrially synthesized chemicals as opposed to naturally synthesized chemicals, because every time some people is oh, you add chemicals to it. It's anything that I add, even just pure water, is a chemical.
Sure. Right.
So we should also try to avoid that buzzword that is against the standard process of preparing your food, which is you're just combining chemicals to prepare something. So that was the comment. And then the question is, let me know if I'm incorrect, if I'm not right. You said in the beginning that you made the book in order for us to make better decisions.
Yes.
So 2 questions then. It's what is your opinion, and what is the things that we should do against, for example, the sugar industry that is trying to hide the addition of sugars into milk? How can we make decisions if we don't have the information to make those decisions? And also, the humans are essentially bad decision makers. So what is your stand on imposing some kind of regulatory better decision-making process so that people cannot make bad decisions because they don't have the possibility to make bad decisions? And I'm talking about, for example, the reducing the amount of sugars that can be sold in schools, or food programs for children, the fact that they can buy a bag of chips more than a plate full of spinaches.
Right.
I mean, I think it's a lot bigger conversation than just us. I mean, for example, cheap food is more affordable than healthier food, right? So, if you're talking about people who are on limited incomes, limited budgets, they may not have, even though we may say buy organic this, or stay away from chemicals or diet soda. If that's on sale at the store for $1 and everything else is 4 times that, people have budgetary limits of things that they can do. So until you kind of start going from a government level that healthier things become more affordable, it's going to be hard to really dictate that, because many people then would really go into food deserts, and things like that would be a lot harder to do. I agree with you about the chemical things. I think a lot of things get, and maybe that is something we need to be a little bit more mindful of about chemicals. I mean, A lot of times, even in my industry, they'll be like, well, is this organic vitamins? Well, not everything organic is good, not everything organic is better. So I think it is something that we do have to be mindful of in the terms that we use, but in terms of people making decisions and things with sugar, I mean, unless companies are not abiding by the laws on which they're regulated by already, all the sugars, even if they're trying to hide things in sugars, and hopefully we've given you some terms to look at now and the other ingredients, but it all has to be listed on there. If not, the company's doing something illegal. And yes, there are people who do that, but I'm sure in every industry, I'm sure you guys have competitors in whatever space you guys are in within this company, that there are people who play by the rules and there are people who don't. There's people who skirt the rules and there are people who don't. But I do think that, unfortunately, regulating what people can eat and making healthier decisions is not just as easy as that, because of just the cost of what that would mean to people and how they live and how they budget their lives and the salaries that they make, and not everyone can afford with the way that things are. I mean, you're subsidizing corn, you're subsidizing all these things that make chips a lot more, cheaper and affordable than it does, your organic celery or whatever it is. It's just not affordable to a lot of people. So it's not I don't think it's as cut as dry as just enforcing those decisions on people.
Right. I think it's hard. They're changing the food label. I can't remember when it comes out, but they are
In 2 years.
changing it to show where added sugars are versus just giving you the basic sugar grams, right? I think they have to include added sugars and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think it also, I speak at a lot of schools, and then sometimes I'm appalled that they still have white bread to these kids, right? Like these kids, or my day camp where my kids go, 2 years ago, they finally stopped serving white bread and they only gave whole wheat bread as an option. So I think it kind of starts smaller at schools and companies and then, but I don't know, I can't even speak about government, but I think it gets really tricky on a bigger level. So I think just at smaller levels within your community, that's where it kind of has to start for change.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. You want to go, Cami?
Hi, thanks so much for coming. I'm so short. Thanks so much for coming. A lot of great information here, and I'm excited to read the book. Hey. Two foods that I always get conflicting information on are avocado and bananas.
Okay.
So I'd love to know a little bit more about those from a health side, and whether or not we should even be avoiding them, or just a little more on those.
No, that's a great question. Avocados are awesome for you, right? So even though avocados have a lot of calories and have a lot of fat, avocados are the good fat, which I'm sure you've also heard about with nuts and nut butters. Avocados are full with monounsaturated fats. Those are the healthy fats. That's what protects your heart and kind of prevents heart disease. So I wouldn't eat a whole avocado a day, but anywhere between a quarter to a half of an avocado per day if you're watching your weight is fair game. Also, because it does have that good fat, it's going to keep you more satisfied and it's going to keep you full and prevent overeating, right? Prevent that, oh, I need chips with my lunch, where maybe you just had a sandwich with turkey and avocado and then you'll feel more satisfied. Bananas get a bad rep. Are you talking about from like a sugar standpoint? Right. So I would say if somebody's like athletic and works out a lot, bananas are great. They're filled with potassium. I think they're a great pre-workout snack, either alone or with some almond butter or peanut butter, something like that. They are slightly more sugar than some other fruits, than like an apple or berries, but bananas can be great because they're portable. And again, if you're somebody who exercises a couple of times per week, you shouldn't have a problem, as long as you stick to one banana per day.
And it's also, what are you comparing it to, right? Is it a banana and a bag of chips? Is it a banana and nothing? So I think you have to kind of, again, look at the entirety of the picture. You can't just look at something in isolation and say, oh, like bananas are bad, because if you're talking about a banana versus, a Dunkin' Donut or something,
Right.
I mean, again, it was just National Donut Day, and, we all had to enjoy them. But, you have to kind of like just, really, what are you comparing it to? Because even though it might have more sugar, it's probably better than 9 of the other things you're going to pick.
Right.
So, you just have to kind of look at it in, the entirety of your day or your week, and not just as that one solitary defining moment.
Right. But I would say, like, if you're looking for like one of the best fruits, blueberries are great. They're filled with fiber, they're filling, they're filled with antioxidants, but they're not exactly like the easiest, most portable snack. Bananas are great because you can grab it on the go or
Throw it in your purse.
throw it in your purse, something like that. So again, if you exercise or work out, I say go for it, because it's got the potassium and it's got like kind of, they even say, this is actually interesting about bananas, I'm going to misspeak, the riper it is, where it's like more green than not. Is that ripe or unripe? Unripe. The more unripe it is, actually, It has resistant starch, so it's less likely to affect your blood sugar. So actually if you're watching your weight or concerned, you're better off buying it more green because your body's less affected by the starch and sugar in the body, which is something I learned recently.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you for coming.
Sure.
Great news about the avocados for me. In the slides it said stick with low fat, referring to dairy, and I was wondering if you guys could comment more on whole fat versus non-fat versus halfway
Skim,
in between.
right.
Yeah, you know, like, because you said when you take something out, you have to put it back in. So I was wondering if there's a rule of thumb or if it varies by product, things like that.
I got this. Okay. So I get this question all the time. I'm a big believer in, so like not whole milk, but not skim, kind of the low fat in the middle, the 2%. In terms of products, right? Like, I don't know, reduced fat cookies, yes, they end up adding sugar and stuff like that to replace the fat. But in terms of dairy, or if you like Greek yogurt, get the 2% Greek yogurt. It's going to feel more filling, and there's not that many more calories to it. But again, I don't think you have to go the whole milk route because whole milk does have saturated fat, which does clog your arteries. So I would go the middle of the road, 2% for dairy. Cheese, yogurt, milk, that type of thing. But again, if you go out for dinner and you have fresh mozzarella cheese, I say go for it. It's delicious. But milk, yogurt on like a day-to-day basis, get the 2% middle of the road. So that's what we mean by low fat.
Thank you.
And
Sure.
Just with the cheese, we have a question in our book where we talk exclusively about cheeses, and we say the full-fat cheese is actually going to keep you more satisfied. It tastes a lot better. So just have a little bit of that instead of having all of this, no-fat
Right.
cheese. It's first of all, I don't know if you've ever tried making like a grilled cheese sandwich or an omelet with the no-fat cheese. It just kind of sits there.
It's
It
like
doesn't even do anything.
Right.
So just go with what you like a lot of times. Especially with cheeses in the whole fat variety, it's going to taste better and you're going to enjoy it more, and you're not going to be looking for a lot of other things, and you'll probably net out with less calories and less fat than by eating way more of the fat-free variety, or obviously the reduced fat, or 2% was a great
Right.
option too, but if that's not available for you.
Thanks.
Sure, I had two questions. The first is, why is there so much competing points of view on nutrition? Why is your book the right way versus other ways? Like, why does all this exist? And the second question is, have y'all evaluated the Google micro kitchens for good snacks?
The what? Can you say that? I just couldn't hear you.
The Google micro kitchens, which are like little snack rooms that we have here for good snacks.
We haven't, but we'll
Right.
gladly
We
do
looked
that later.
briefly. We didn't have that much time right before, but after.
I think what's interesting, and I don't even know if Ilyse agrees with me, but about nutrition and about the health and wellness category as a whole, is that there's a lot of competing interests out there, right? And I always say, like, you have food on one side who wants you to believe you can get everything you need from food. And then you have the pharmaceutical industry who wants you to believe that everything could be cured by medicine. And then you kind of have this like health and wellness movement in the middle who wants you to eat well and wants you to go to the doctor when you don't feel well, but there's other, more proactive ways of kind of looking at your health. And I think a lot of times what's interesting with studies is who funded them, why do they exist, what is kind of the point behind them. And a lot of times, let's say in like my industry, they'll say, vitamins don't cure cancer. Tell me something I didn't know. They shouldn't. They're not supposed to. Nothing cures cancer. Chemo doesn't cure cancer, So I think it's really interesting to say, like, are you trying to prove something that's a falsehood to begin with? What's your motive behind it? And I think a lot of times also it's, are there double-blind placebo studies? Are they just looking at a small percentage of people? Is it over years? What information did they leave out of the study? I mean, a lot of the most interesting parts of studies, if you're looking at the research, is what they didn't include, what they kind of threw away. Was that because it didn't prove their point? Was that because, it wasn't relevant? What was their, who are their subjects? Are they people who are unhealthy to begin with? Are they just a random group of people? A lot of these things are so, unfortunately, a lot of times when the news reports things, they just give you the headlines. But if you just read 3 sentences into the abstract, you'd get a totally different view of what the study was presenting. And I think that's unfortunately why there's so much mixed messaging out there, because it's, who read kind of through the study and who just read, the headline and kind of trying to take it away from that. And I think that, again, because, food has particular interests, pharmaceutical has particular interests, and they're all good, right? I mean, like, we all love our drugs when they make us feel better when we don't feel well. And we all love our good food, and we all love our bad food too. We're not here to disparage any of those people, but a lot of times, a lot of these big companies fund these studies, and they're trying to support something that, moves their bottom line or moves their product. And I think that, unfortunately, that's not always reported. And I think that's why there's so much competing interest. And I think the reason that, our book has done so well and why we've gotten so much positive feedback is because we're not here telling you, eliminate this whole class of food, don't do something. We're all human. We all want to enjoy life. We all want to eat, and we want to eat the things we like to eat. We're not here to kind of dictate to you how you live and how you eat and what you put into your body. The point is, how do you make smarter decisions and kind of get rid of a lot of that bias against certain foods, bananas, for example. It's just, again, it's what does it compare it to? We kind of just want to put things into perspective for you and kind of make it part of a larger discussion, as opposed to just isolating things, because when you isolate anything, it could be good, bad, or indifferent. It's just a matter of, it's not how you live. So I think that's how our book kind of goes at that.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, it'd be cool if y'all could look at the snacks that we have. And
We
maybe
definitely
give a
will.
recommendation.
Try them all out.
All right.
Hi, thanks again for coming. I just wanted to dig in on the dairy question a little bit more. So what kind of milk packs the most nutritional punch, right? So I have 2 kids, and the ultra pasteurized I found is just like really expensive water.
Right.
So what's the deal? Ultra pasteurized, pasteurized, homogenized, non-homogenized? What is the best from a nutritional standpoint?
Go for it.
I mean, I would say the best is, and I wouldn't get like in part of, what we speak about, don't feel like you have to get wrapped up in all those terms, right?
I totally have.
Okay.
I'm already there.
Trust me, we all have, right? Or a lot of my clients have. Don't stress yourself out. Go buy for your kids, go buy organic, either, how old are they?
2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Oh, yeah, no, organic is baseline.
Obviously.
Right? That's
Okay. Okay. Just, I don't think you have to drive yourself nuts. Just go buy the organic, 2% or even whole milk, depending on what your pediatrician recommends for them at this age. I don't know their weights or anything like that. And don't stress yourself out about like the ultra filtered, ultra pet.
It doesn't matter?
No, don't. Everybody's like, and kind of along with that question that we just asked, like, and unfortunately, everybody's looking to make a buck, right? And everybody's looking to get you to buy their product because they're different and distinct. So sometimes like don't get yourself stressed out about it, and sometimes go for like the most simple thing.
So they're kind of created equal from a pasteurization ultra
Yeah, I mean-
versus regular?
Right. To be honest, I don't know in detail about that. I'm happy to look it up, and you can email me, or I can grab your email at the end, because now you have me thinking. But I would say, like, to me, basic organic whole milk or 2% milk is why not?
Okay. No, I've just done so much research, and I know there's so much kind of focus on it now, so I just kind of wanted to hear your point of view
Right.
on it. So
No, but now I'm going to go look it up.
It's an interesting topic.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Perfect.
I'll let her go. She was waiting.
Hi, I'm sorry, I'm short too. So I was actually recently advised by a doctor for a medical condition to go on a low sodium diet, which is like the worst thing in the world for me because I used to put salt on salt,
Right.
literally. And everything is just really bland to me now. I found like Mrs. Dash and new salt to like use on my like when I'm cooking chicken
Yeah.
or fish or something, but it's super bland. And I'm shocked by how many condiments and dressings have
Tons.
Everything.
like
Tons.
that's where I used to get most of my salt, and it really like I used to live on ketchup. Now I don't even use it. Do you have advice on to like snacks and like ways to like dress your food so that it like has like a little bit more flavor and taste? Just because I just don't enjoy.
Right. No, well, I would say
Yeah.
for cooking, garlic, cooking with fresh garlic, I feel like really helps enhance the flavor, and whether you use olive oil or coconut oil or something like that, for sure. And trying out those spices, but also different spices, right? Like paprika and cayenne and, garlic powder, onion powder, the ones that don't have sodium in it. But I would just try experimenting with spices or even just sauteing an onion. And then for snacks, unfortunately, you have to be really careful, but you could do like, an apple with unsalted almond butter, an apple with unsalted peanut butter, or unsalted nuts.
What about more like on the go type snacks? Because like you, I have kids. I'm always on the go.
Right.
And they're always like going for the pretzels and things, and I'm just starving because I can't like just cut fresh fruit and bring it around with me
Right.
everywhere. It's not easy.
Yeah,
Well,
banana,
banana.
apple, but a lot of companies make the unsalted to-go nuts. You could put that in your bag. Even some, I don't know off the top of my head, I'd actually have to look. Some of the Kind bars, but I'd have to look, to be honest with you, on the label, on the sodium. But some of those things. But even now, I mean, they make peanut butter and almond butter packets, which is awesome. So I know you're not going to carry around a jar with you, but you could carry around that and like an apple. And it's great, though. I mean, I picked some up at like a seminar yesterday. So Yeah.
Low sodium's hard. Sodium's
It
like
is hard.
Sodium's like the new.
It's the worst.
Yeah, because when we
Right.
talk about taking things out and putting things back in, a lot of times they're putting in salt.
Yeah.
Because that kind of it's the great flavor
Like,
master,
right.
which is why nothing tastes good to you anymore because there's no salt.
Retraining my mouth.
Yes,
Right.
that's exactly
And
what you
it's
have to
going
do.
to take time. Yeah, definitely going to take
Thank you.
Hi there. Thanks for coming over first and educating us. Two questions. I missed the first part of the session, so I don't know if you answer that question. Should we really scoop out our bagel, or if it's part of the book?
We'll answer in a second. What's your second question?
And the second question, how bad is honey? Because I saw one of your slides that stay away from sugar and honey, but I mean, I don't use sugar at all, but I kind of use honey as a supplement sometimes. Is honey as bad as sugar?
So honey is sugar, and we just want you to recognize that. Now, if you're using 1 teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of honey per day, that is absolutely fine, right? Unless you have diabetes. So don't stress about that. If you're using globs of honey because you think it's healthier for you, then we just say just watch out. And kind of a cool little tidbit, some people use local honey to prevent allergies. Is that what you do?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
Yeah. People swear by it instead of taking Claritin or allergy medicine. So again, as long as you're sticking to like 1 to 2 teaspoons per day, that's fine as long as your sugar intake for the rest of the day is low. You want to talk about the bagel scoop?
Sure, yeah. I mean, we just say, if you're trying to watch your weight, scooping bagels is a great thing. We just said, be careful not to eat the scooping when you take it out and not to overfill your bagel. And if you don't want to scoop, try things like flagels, deli thins, just half a bagel. Those would be great options to, not scooping your bagel if you don't want to.
Thank you.
And feel free to take some of the rainbow bagels home. There's
Yeah,
plenty.
especially for those of you who have kids.
Yeah,
I love
take some home.
Hey, going back to the avocados, something I read about was there's a difference between omega-3 and omega-6, and people say omega-3s are good and they come from fatty fish and stuff like that, but like avocados and eggs have a lot of omega-6. Could you elaborate a little bit on what the difference is and why it matters, if it does matter at all?
So omega-6s do get a bad rap, but when you're talking about things from food, I wouldn't really worry about it. I mean, it's more kind of my industry than the food industry. So when you're talking about an avocado or anything that has omegas in it, I wouldn't worry at all about that. I think that's a manufactured controversy. When you're talking about supplements, I would take an omega-3 with a DHA, if that's something that you're interested in taking. That has EPA and DHA in it for an omega product. And I would stay away from the omega-6s. But when it comes to food, I think it's a manufactured.
Right. I think the point is our diet does have a lot of omega-6s in it just naturally between the foods we eat, so there's no need to add to it with a supplement. Avocado and eggs, I don't know if they have omega-6s in it, now that I think about it, but I know like certain oils do. So I'd have to look that up because I've always thought avocados and eggs have like the omega-3s. But yeah, so we're just saying in general, the food supply does have omega-6s, so there's no reason to take an extra omega-6 supplement. In fact, we need more omega-3s to like balance out the 6s.
And with that, if you're looking again for a supplement, take something that has EPA or DHA in it. And if you get like those like discussing I can't even speak. Fishy burps from it or something. There's different ways to take it.
9 months pregnant.
And we kind of, I'm sorry, pregnancy brain is a real thing. We get to that in our book, and you could always email either one of us if you have specific questions about any of that stuff.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right,
you,
everybody. Well,
guys.
yes, thank you so much for having us.